What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the B-Main. I'm Gavin Grubbs. We're here with Scott Shive. And guess who finally got a webcam?
Let's
Finally.
go.
Well, guys, there's been a lot of news in these last 2 weeks. FloRacing Night in America kicked off its 10-race season with 3 races all last week during Illinois Speed Week. This continued into 2 Lucas Oil shows at the end of the week. And we literally just finished watching the high limit race at Kokomo. What'd you guys think about that? I
Gosh,
thought it was a good
what an
race.
ending.
I
Yeah.
know. What
Rico
an ending.
Abreu on
Just
a
great.
freaking tear
Yep.
right now.
Shout out to Rico. And
We'll get into more of
lastly, in the
that.
new news, today this just dropped. Parker Eatmon is now the official new pilot of the number 71 Hettinger Racing late model stock car in the Cars Tour. And speaking of the Cars Tour, they had a race at ACE 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
And let's get right into that.
Well, and I'll just feed right off the news now about Eatmon. You know, Bowman didn't have a great race. You know, he was running decently within the top 15, gets involved in another accident. And I think, Timothy, you talked about it when we were kind of prepping and just talking about everything before the show. Like, Bowman has good talent. I think he definitely has talent. I just think he's been involved in so much stuff. A lot, I think, of not of his own doing, but you know, it still plays a factor. You've got to get the results. And I hate it for him. Again, we don't know if he's out of that seat or not. We just know that Parker Eatmon running the 71 Hettinger. I mean, well, okay, but he could be running another 71. But for 100% fact, we don't know that Bowman is not going to be in the Cars Tour with whatever. I have no idea. But I'm just saying, like, he hasn't gotten the results, but I think a lot of it hasn't been because of his own fault or lack of talent.
Yeah, I mean he'll have a ride somewhere.
Yeah.
Definitely. But you know, we don't know if he got bumped down or what. But yeah, I don't really have a lot to talk about there. I mean, they're both great drivers, but
well, I know something that you do have a good bit to talk about. When we just talked about Lainey Bice and how she did in the ACE, she was running the top 5 almost the whole race.
She led quite a few laps there
She
at
did.
the start of the race as well. I mean, Connor Hall was leading the race and ended up with a flat. Lainey Bice took the lead, and she ended up holding on to the lead for a while before Landon Lewis finally took over.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely one of the best female talents in racing right now. But you know, she's still newer to the late model stuff. You know, well, it'll probably take a couple years before she has that breakout season, or it could be this year. You know, we're still pretty fresh on the season, but I mean, I would definitely keep an eye on her after this weekend.
Well, I think you mentioned it, Timothy. She's fighting with a really good set of competition right now. You know, we think, honestly, I think we can all agree on this, that Jade and Lainey are 2 of the best female talents that are on the up and coming right now.
Yeah.
And I think that right now they're at 2 bit different levels of their careers a little bit. Just, you know, Jade's still getting into asphalt more, and she's been very excelling in the pros, but late models are definitely a little different. And the Cars Tour late model competition is definitely different than the pros. This year we've seen all throughout all 4 races that, I mean, we question, you know, what would the Cars Tour late model stock program look like with the loss of Kvapil and Brendan Queen and Brent Cruz. And I think with the new drivers that have come in, we've gotten almost equally, if not better, and faster competition. And so I think Lainey Bice has put herself in a good spot in getting into that competition, and I think she's doing well for herself among that field. What was it? She got P8 in her ARCA debut.
Yeah, she got P8 in her ARCA debut. I think at Kansas she ran the ARCA race this week, and I think she ended up finishing 6th.
No, I think her and Robusto got into it.
Her and Robusto got into it. Yeah. She ended up saving the car, and I think she might have finished 7th. There were 7 cars on the lead lap.
My buddy Kevin Sheevy messaged her and said, "Did you expect to make the corner?" or something like that. It was some funny comment, and she laughed at it. But but you know, you're going to make mistakes as a young driver.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to see her. She didn't seem to lose any confidence on making that mistake. No. I mean, she was laughing it up. She seemed very happy in her post-race interview. So I don't think confidence is a problem with her either. And you can tell it's not a problem just by watching a Cars Tour race. I mean, she is one of the more entertaining drivers to watch in the Cars Tour, just as far as the way she races. now that I think about it, everybody in the Cars Tour is just absolutely wheels those cars around those tracks. And
Yeah.
you look at her teammate, and her and Doug Barnes are both fast this year. And
Yeah,
I
Doug
don't really know if
Barnes.
one of them has really. I don't think either one of them has taken the step and said, "Hey, I am the number one driver on this team." I think they seem pretty even right now.
Yeah, well, Doug Barnes is sitting 7th in championship
Mhm.
standings right now, and Bice is back in 13th. So Doug Barnes, I think he's been a little bit more quiet, but he has been a little bit more consistent. I mean, he's got 4 top 10s out of all. He's finished top 10 in all 4 of our races. So,
So you have a top
or
five
actually,
yet?
we've had 5 races. So he's got 1 top 5. I don't remember where that came at. I think it was at Orange County. That might have come up for him. But also, you know who's really on a whole nother level this year? Landon Huffman. You know, he got
been great.
well in 2023, or maybe it was the beginning of 2024. He was running that Nelson car. It was the end of 2023 before Connor Hall got into it, and he did great in that Nelson car. And then for whatever reason, he went with Carroll Shelby Speed Shop, and he's worked with them. But last year, and I try to not say, I hope this doesn't sound this in a rude way, but they were abysmal. They did not have the results. They could not run, and I don't think it was exactly because of Huffman. I think the team was working at a lot of things, but they have found it this year. They had a little bit of trouble at New River All-American, but goes up. He's running in the top 2 at Wake County, gets bumped out of that, still finishes top 10, and then he's finished top 5 in the last 2 races at Orange County and Ace Speedway. So Huffman is on a charge right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing really good. I just want to go back. I have a little note here on that Cars Tour race. Is last week, I think it was last Saturday, Junior Motorsports had an abysmal day. I mean,
Ooh, it was tough.
Caden Kvapil, he had the flat. He had a bad race. Carson Kvapil had troubles. Justin Allgaier got taken out by a lap car. I mean, JRM across both series, just it wasn't fun for them.
Yeah, it was definitely tough. You know, it's not something that you want to see, especially for Connor Hall. You know, he's been doing really, really well for himself. Luckily, he's still leading the points, but with the win from Landon Lewis and the bad day that Hall had, Lewis is only 4 points back, and Cade Brown is only 5 points back. So the top 3 are only separated by 5 points. So this run from Connor Hall really closed down the gap and cut down the gap between Lewis, Cade Brown, and Huffman's not too far back with 21. Ronnie Bassett Jr. is back there at 26. You know, if some new drivers keep having good runs like this, we could see an excellent battle for the championship all season long.
Clearly, Landon Lewis is the driver of those 3 with the momentum right now. I mean, coming off that win.
Yeah.
A pretty dominant win, in my opinion. I mean, he was just flat out he was the class of the field the whole race.
He wasn't without challenge from the field. You know, Millington challenged him, Bice challenged him, but he didn't exactly run away with it. But I think he held up to those challenges.
That's what I'm saying. I don't feel like he dominated, but I never felt like he was not in control of the race.
Yeah,
it felt like he was in control the entire time to me.
Timothy, what do you think about? You know, Caden Kvapil was in this race. He's run 2 races this year for JRM, and although he had a flat tire, he was running in the top 5 before that. He
rebounded to 7th.
Yeah, and he ran great, and he did the same thing at New River. They had a problem, and he rebounded to the top 10. And you know, he ran 2 years ago in Pro Late Models. He ran with I think it was the 95 or 96 crew. I don't know what team that was. He ran some last year, but he wasn't full time. And then this year he's not running in pros at all, and he's running some with JRM. I want to hear your thoughts on Caden Kvapil.
Well, I haven't had much experience with him, but it's kind of hard to follow his brother's shoes. I mean,
yeah,
Carson he's been great in everything that he has ever been in, and
right.
He's been doing really good in the Xfinity series and everything else. But I think that there's definitely some talent there, and that he'll have his breakout season, or even one race he might run really well in, and from there on he's able to win everything. But I haven't kept up with him a whole lot, but as far as racing around him and everything like that, I haven't had any experience with that. But yeah, I think definitely he'll be really good, but it's really hard to fill the shoes that his brother
Right.
left.
Well, and I got to wonder, does he try to get a ride with a late model stock team? Because, again, obviously he's in a junior motorsports car, and they build some of the best, maybe the best in Cars Tour competition. But I think even though he's had challenges not of his own doing, and he's recovered because of them, do you think he should, try to find a ride in late model stocks? Because I think he's doing better in with this car than he ever did with the pros.
Yeah, I mean that I don't really know the words to put that into, but it's.
I just feel like you
think,
got to go where this
yeah, I don't.
success is.
Yeah, wherever you find the success, that's where you should go. I mean, it's
Right.
not
That's
like
and that's what I'm
he
thinking.
should drop everything and jump into a late model stock. That's you can't say that. But yeah, I think he just needs a little more time. I don't think he needs to jump in a new car or anything. He just needs a little more time.
I got you. Well, I just wanted to know because I quite like him. Obviously, I love Carson, and I think it's hard to live up to his brother and all that he's gotten to do and is doing. And I know that's definitely tough for him, but I think he definitely is a good talent as well. You could debate who is better. I mean, I think Carson is. I think we all know Carson is better, but I don't think that demotes Caden's talent as well. I think he's still.
Yeah, I think that comes down to experience, though.
Yeah.
I think Carson's had a lot more experience. He's
the older
proven
brother.
himself. Yeah,
Right.
he's proven himself more. But like I said, Caden could just have a breakout season one year and
Right.
surprise everybody, and he might end up being better than his brother. But that it just takes time to tell that story.
Yeah. I guess that's something that we'll have to keep looking at. I hope he gets more runs because, again, I like him a lot, and I hope that he continues to get those runs with Junior Motorsports and can continue to prove himself and all that. Anything more notable, Gavin, from the Cars Tour race?
Mini Tyrell started the season great.
Oh,
He had
yes.
another
Thank you.
awful run. I mean, he finished
Yeah.
17th. How far has he fallen in the standings? I know you have
Let
the
me
standings
look.
pulled up right here.
Yeah, it's not great. He's down. He's still in 8th. So he stabilized at 8. He might have been in. No, I think he was in 6th when we recorded our last episode. So I think
But I
he
feel
might
like
have
at
fallen to
one
more
point
points.
he was near the lead.
It was him and Hall that were up 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Orange County and Ace have not been good to Mini Tyrell, and because Orange County was the race where he destroyed that car, and then Ace, obviously, he just. I think this is something that we saw out of Mini last year. I think we've talked about that the competition of the Cars Tour is so tight that it is so difficult to battle in the mid pack. Unless you have a car that is absolutely on rails, it is so difficult to work yourself back up through the pack after getting involved in anything. And so I think when you find yourself in that mid pack, there almost is a formation of a barrier to get back into the top 10, to get back up towards the front. And I think that's what is happening in Mini. We saw him at Wake County and where else? He qualified. Did he qualify on pole at Orange County?
It was Wake County. I think he had a rough race at Orange County.
I know, but
Cordial. Was it?
Yes, it was Cordial. He qualified on pole at Cordial and Wake County. And we saw that in both of those races, he was amazing. He was excellent out near the front. Even when Connor Hall got in front of him, he was great. But it's because he never had a battle in the mid pack. And I'm not trying to say that Mini can't get through the mid pack. No, I think he's a great driver and he's an excellent talent. I just think the Cars Tour competition is so tough and so tight that if you don't have a car that is just way better than everybody, it's tough to fight. And we know about Mini, he's a family-owned operation, and that's tough. And so I think his driver talent has helped carry that operation. And while we see him running up towards the front, but I think when he starts in the mid-pack, it's hard for him to get his way up front because of that difference in Connor Hall's car and his car. Y'all's thoughts?
I mean, I feel like I agree with everything you said because
Yeah.
you look at Mini's car and it's a good car, but it's not one of those top 2 or 3 cars you look at in the car store. It's not a JRM car. It's another car. It's not a bad car at all, but he's a good enough driver to keep a 5th to 10th place car in the top 2 or 3 if you get him there. But when you take that mid-pack car and put it in the mid-pack, it's going to stay in the mid-pack.
Right.
And like you mentioned, and we've all been a witness to, the mid-pack of the Cars Tour is, you might as well be in a random lobby on iRacing.
Right. And that's why I think, I don't know what he does about that. Because the only thing you can do is
that's a family-owned team, isn't it?
Like, it is, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the only way you fix that right now, without throwing money at the problem, is going and trying to qualify out up in the top 5, and so that you avoid the mid-pack entirely. And incidents are going to happen, like we've seen when he's back there, but as much as possible, and I'm saying this, every driver wants to avoid any incident at all possible, but for many, again, I think he's a driver that has the talent that can go and fight with Connor Hall for this championship. But if he wants to do that, there's obviously a difference in the speed at which their cars are at, and so he's got to work harder than Hall because he's at a disadvantage. So that's my thoughts, because I want him to do good, and it's tough as a family-owned team, a family-owned operation. Timothy, we've talked about it before. You have first-hand experience with that, and so
that's kind of
And
what I was wondering is, what insight do you have about being that family-owned team and in racing in the mid-pack of a really competitive field? What is that like?
So my experience with it is, you don't have the time or money to work on your car all the time. So the driver has to overcome some of that sometimes, and the driver can't always do that. But like I've had races at Cordell in the Southern Super Series where we are really good. We finished 3rd in August, and we finished 5th at Speedfest a couple years ago. But it's hard to overcome that all the time whenever you just don't have the time or money to sink into the car constantly.
Right.
And when your driver has to work constantly or is in school or whatever the case, and they can't focus on keeping their body in shape like they should, or being on a sim constantly, you're going to be less consistent than the big teams who their drivers, they have things that they have things that they need to do during the week, but they also have time to, make sure they're in the gym constantly, or make sure they're, on a sim for 20 hours a week. And with a smaller team, you don't get that. So, you can have some really good races, but you also have some very average races along with that.
Yeah. It's one of those tough spots. And I think you said it best, Timothy, consistency. And I think that's what we've seen out of Connor Hall, even through these problems. Connor Hall has been able to find a way to keep it somewhat consistent. I think he's finished 3 races in the top 10. So he's still found a way to get up right outside of it. He's finished higher than many. But I think it's tough because you got to have that consistency, especially in a touring series like the Cars Tour. And I think that you hit the nail on the head about Tyrell struggling out there. I want to move on to the Pro Late Model race, specifically because viewers, I don't know if Gavin, you know what happened in a turn 1, right?
Well, I thought I knew what happened, and then you said you have more information on it. So
set it up for the viewers. What went on?
Okay,
on track.
So Monahan was leading early in the race, and he continued to lead, but there was a car pulled off the track, supposedly, we think, with engine issues. And Keelan Harvick, TJ DeCarry, and a few others all ended up getting into a crash because of the fluid that was put down on the track. And So, and when I mentioned that to you, you said, "Wait, there's more."
Yeah.
So,
So
I
okay.
want to know what the more is.
Okay, so as all of our viewers and listeners know, I work at South Boston Speedway. Announcer there, and so the past two race events that we've had, we've competed with the Cars Tour in terms of we had racing on the same day. That's why we had day races. Now for the rest of the season, where night races, we don't compete with the Cars Tour. We don't compete with really any big major events in terms of short track racing, and so a lot of our people that work at the track, that work other places as well, are finally back at the track for the rest of the season because they were doing other things. A good few of our people work with the Cars Tour full time. And so they are finally back, and they were back this weekend. So the Cars Tour race director is our race director. His name is Danny. And the Cars Tour flagman, Brandon Willard, is also at South Boston. So they were both there, which also, funny story, a sidebar, I commentate a league for Brandon Willard, and we didn't find out until Saturday, which I thought was cool.
That's funny.
But anyway, so they're actually so it's Danny and Brandon. So Brandon's in the flag stand, and Danny's in race control. And so they do that for the Cars Tour. They do it for South Boston. So I got to talk to them this weekend, and we were talking about Ace, and because they're telling stories, which is so cool to listen to them about. It's always cool to hear things behind the scenes. That's what I love. I love going down pit road in the morning and getting stories from drivers, all that stuff. Anyway, but so Danny was talking to me, and we were talking about the incident for Mace because we were talking about it being rain short and all that. And so I don't remember how they were talking about it, but I think they were messing with Danny about he got all the right caution calls tonight, and mentioning that they missed the caution in Ace at Cars Tour. And he was like, what happened, right? And I was like, no, like what? And so Brandon, the flag stand man, has communication with race control. They tell him when to put the caution out. He cannot wave the flag even if he sees something until they tell him to put the caution out. And so Brandon's on the stand. He's right there on the track. Well, he sees the fluid in turn one. He can see it. He has a transmitter. It's a two-way radio, so he can tell them if he sees something. They can then look at it and be like, okay, that's needed for a caution. So he sees this fluid. The leaders are back on the backstretch. He's like, hey, we got fluid. The caution needs to come out. But again, he can't throw it. They're not responding. Like he's telling them that we got fluid. And they still haven't responded to him. Leaders get back to turn one, and bam. And then, of course, the caution comes out. But his transponder wasn't transmitting up to race control. And so they didn't see the fluid because they were so far away in the box. But Brandon was right there. And so Kip Childress told Brandon, the flagman, that you did right by the rules. That you didn't throw the caution because, again, race control has to make that decision. But that's what I figured out. That's why that all happened, because Brandon couldn't communicate with Danny in race control. So that's what I heard, and I thought was cool. So that's a little insider insight.
Yeah, well, that also begs the question, why is the flagman not allowed to make that call?
Well, and I thought about that as well. And I don't know I wonder if that's a universal thing for a lot of touring series or even just short tracks themselves, because I actually don't know the answer. I don't know if that's a Cars Tour thing and their race control and their rule book, or if that's a universal thing. Because I agree with you there, but I think I don't know, because the race director, he'll make the calls on his own and say, hey, that needs to be a caution per the rule book. So I like that idea. And I wonder if Kip and all the people with the Cars Tour will maybe have that conversation of saying, that wouldn't, even though it was a technical malfunction with his headset, and we wouldn't have had that incident in turn one if Brandon could have put it out himself.
Yeah. Well, do they have the same flagman for every single race, or do they use?
Okay. Brandon tours with them. He works full time.
I thought maybe
and it's the
they
same
might
race
have had
control.
a deal. Yeah, I figured if they used the track's flagman, then that rule would kind of make sense to me. But
right.
In my opinion, I think if the flagman sees something, because he is much closer to the track
Yeah.
than the people up in the box, I feel like if the flagman sees something, he should be able to put the caution out. Because at the end of the day, that's what the flagman was for. Like
Right.
that's what the flagman has been for. But I could understand it if they had different flagmen at each racetrack, if they just used the racetrack's flagmen. That because the local flagman could be used to a different set of rules,
Right.
But that might just be something that they need to work on there.
Well, and
And
I wonder if that'll
another-
have a conversation. Go ahead, Gavin.
And I was thinking is I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 90% sure that in NASCAR it's the same. The race director does it, and the caution comes out when the caution lights come on. That way, when you go back to review running order,
Yeah.
that way it's synced up on a timestamp and not, oh, here's when the flagman reached for the flag. It goes on. Here is when the race director hit the button and the lights came on. Is when you're going to look at running order and timing and scoring.
Right.
And I would just assume that it's a timing and scoring issue more than it's a safety issue or a race manipulation thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
that makes sense too.
Well, and now that you've posed this question, because I didn't really think about it, I'm going to ask him. And be like, is that a rule that y'all have? Is that a everywhere thing, or is that, and what do they think about it? So because I didn't really think about it, because I was like, oh yeah, race control, they got to call it, but it makes sense that he's closer, he could see it, but yeah, that was my only thing from the Pro Late models. Last thing that we want to talk about in asphalt racing is ASA. I know that we have been a little short on ASA Stars viewers and listeners, so I apologize about that one. Timothy and I have been cracked down with school. It has sucked, but our finals are now and next week for him, and so we are about to be out of the woods, flying every which way we can, and I'm going to be in the race notes like crazy. But Cole Butcher has just been dominating. Timothy, I think – well, yeah, go ahead, Gavin.
No, I'll just say, dude's undefeated since the World Series of Asphalt, and that was in January.
Yeah. I'm going to go – while y'all talk about this for a second, because I'm going to look up some stats for him.
Yeah, Cole Butcher has been on a tear the last 2 years. He's won the Pensacola 200 back-to-back. It's just he's been doing great, which it's hard not to do great whenever you put such a talented driver in a Donnie Wilson machine. It's just you're going to win a lot of races when you have such a good driver and the best equipment there is. But yeah, he's been doing great, and then he went to Nashville and led flag to flag.
Was that a 100 or 200 lap race?
I believe it was 150, but I could be wrong about that.
I'm not sure. I was not watching that race.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. I watched the highlights and didn't really pay attention to the lap count. But
yeah,
was Cole Butcher in the Rattler with you this year?
No, he was not.
Okay, he was not in the Rattler. All right.
No.
What is it? Yeah, Cole Butcher has won 3 in a row, and they've had 4 races this season. So he's on 3 in a row, which is insane.
And that first race was the race at the World Series of Asphalt, right? In Pensacola?
Yes.
No, it was
not Pensacola.
New Smyrna.
New Smyrna, yeah.
That was the only one he didn't win. Gavin Moschel was won that, and he got his first ASA win ever.
And isn't that also a Donnie Wilson car? Or is that
it is.
Okay.
So Donnie Wilson.
Donnie Wilson is undefeated this year.
They are.
Yeah, Donnie Wilson's undefeated this year.
Which Timothy, again, I don't know if you've looked at any of it. What I know, what is it? Carson Brown has been doing pretty good in the Campy car, but But what's going on with Campy? Why are they not finding stride?
Well, and
sounds like Donnie Wilson's just that good right now.
Yeah, I think Donnie Wilson. And I'm not gonna say anything poorly about Carson Brown because he's been great. He's a rookie this year in the Super Series, and He's been in the top 5, I think, nearly every race. But I think it's just more R&D that Donnie Wilson has been able to produce, because they do have 2 to 3, even 4 cars sometimes at every race. So they're able to try a lot more stuff, and they can produce a better setup. Anthony Campy, they only have 2 cars at each
Right.
race, and they have the best equipment that there is, but you can't fine tune the cars as much when you have less cars, because you can try more stuff with more cars. And I believe that just lets Donnie Wilson get ahead.
Why do you think that Campy is not expanded? They've got the funding. Why do you think they haven't expanded to a 3-car operation?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, that's that the only people who know why they haven't is Anthony himself and the Lord. They that's their thing. They might just not have enough funded drivers who can come run with them. And I believe Donnie Wilson's closer to the Charlotte area, kind of the home of racing.
Yeah.
So
Easier to find drivers.
Yeah, it's easier to find funded drivers who can come in and do good. Whereas Anthony's down in South Florida, and I just don't believe that it's easy for him to find drivers like that.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that, because, I mean, it has been crazy. Let me see where they go to next, because I'm interested to see. But yeah, and Butcher won at Dominion, because I think that was their first time racing at Dominion.
Yes, it was.
2025 ASA schedule. I gotta find the schedule, boys. That's not what I want. There we go. There's the schedule, guys. Oh, they are going. Whoa. Oh, wait, no. Okay, wait. Oh, I'm jumping way far ahead. Okay, I for some reason thought their next race was in June. It's not. Their next race is Hickory. So, which I love the track of Hickory. But it's tight. It's tight for the supers.
I mean, it's not a big track at all.
No.
It's a fun track, abrasive track too. I mean,
I think that's one that we definitely need to watch. Hey, and then 2 days later they'll be at Newport. So, which I think that will also be a good one. So
that's Newport, Tennessee, I assume.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I've seen a race there.
I don't think I have either. So maybe we'll have one of our viewers and maybe we'll have one of our watch nights. We've really been talking about doing that soon, and I think we're gonna do it. We didn't do it earlier tonight just because we were getting a lot of information together for the podcast. But yeah, right before this, we were watching Kokomo, and Gavin, let's go into Kokomo.
Yeah, let's talk about dirt. The high limit race of Kokomo literally just ended 30, 40 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It was a great race. It's funny, me and Timothy were watching. We said, this is a good race, but an uneventful race. I mean, Justin Peck had led 29 of 30 laps, and I think we looked up with 2 to go, and Rico was ripping the top.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, here he comes. And back straight away, he had a huge run on the last lap, hangs it out high in turn 3, gets even with Peck in the middle of turn 4, and wins by
It was
I don't know what.
It was 0.101. That's what he won by. So roughly.
Yeah, he won by a tenth or 100th either. So I mean, he just flat out had the run. He barely led, but he led the only part of the race that matters if you lead. Yeah. And so Justin Peck finished second. Brad Sweet rounded out the podium. Corey Day pulled off with mechanical trouble with handful of laps left. Tyler Courtney, Brady Bacon rounded out the top 5. And Kyle Larson only managed to finish P6. He ended up 4th in his heat race. He just seemed a little bit off all night. Like, about halfway through the race, I'd kind of forgotten that Kyle Larson was there, really. And then I looked at the leaderboard at the end. I was like, oh, yeah, Larson was in this race. He just seemed like a non-factor the whole race. There was a little bit of really good racing we watched between Brady Bacon and Corey Day kind of midway through the race, and the two of them were absolutely getting after it. Kokomo is such a cool track. The top, treacherous, but if you can run it, it is so fast. The middle, like a lot of dirt tracks, the middle's kind of useless, but the bottom, it is so slow, but it is so short around there that it's just leaves for such interesting racing, especially out of 2 and out of 4.
Yeah, I thought that
Yeah,
Day was doing pretty good before those problems because who was he fighting
that's
with?
exactly what I was
Yeah.
just about to say. Him
He
and the
was making
41
his way.
car, they were having not the 41, the
21, Brady
14.
Bacon. Brady Bacon
Okay,
ended up
sorry.
fifth.
Yeah, I
They
couldn't
were
remember the
they were
car
racing
numbers,
for
but
they were racing for 5th when Corey
They-
Day pulled off.
they were having a really good race actually, because we were talking about it while it was happening, and you know, I hated to see Corey Day have to pull off. I don't know what was wrong with his car, but you know, they were having an extremely good race, and yeah, just another thing. Larson at one point, I think he was in like 15th. He was way back in the field,
He
and
started buried in
y-
the field.
yeah, and he managed to come up to 6th. You know, normally you watch a sprint car race with Kyle Larson, and he dominates the race, but you know, it was interesting to watch him come through the field.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I think that what this pulls on, we won't get too heavy into it. We talked about a lot of it last episode, but I think this is the place right now where Day feels comfortable, and whether
And you can tell.
you can tell,
Yeah.
and you can tell maybe that Hendrick is doing this to boost his confidence back up, but I think it just goes back to our conversation that he is just doing so many different things at once that I think if they were to just lower his commitments and focus on a few disciplines instead of all of them all at once, that he'd be able to hone in on those things and make micro adjustments, make micro changes to his driver skill, his driver talent, and just continue to learn and develop. But I'm glad that he got to run these 2 races because I think it probably boosted his confidence just a little to be running well because he won one of them. He won something.
Yeah, he won a high limit race just a few days ago. He won
that's
at
what I thought.
Tri-City.
That's what I
And
thought.
he had an insane pass to go from 3rd to 1st in one set of
I
corners.
thought I
that
saw
was
somewhere
Tri-City.
he won.
That was at Tri-City earlier this week. But I want to point this out again about Corey Day is I was really impressed. He didn't have the finish to show for it. He got into a little bit of trouble on a restart during a restart at Texas during the Xfinity race. He showed some speed and he showed the most confidence I've seen him show in a stock car yet. And it was the first time in his asphalt NASCAR career that I looked at him and said, okay, I think he's starting to figure this out.
Yeah.
But back going to Texas while we're on the high limit train is last weekend they ran a doubleheader there with NASCAR. Brent Marks won the first race from the pole. Rico outdueled Kyle Larson to win on night 2, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to talk about is Napa was doing some special paint schemes for their, I think, 50th or 75th anniversary. I think 50th 100th anniversary. How about Napa's gold paint schemes they were running at the Texas weekend?
Oh, it looked good. I thought Brad Sweet's car looked good. I honestly thought it looked best on the Daniel Hemrick's truck.
I liked it on Hemrick's truck. That was a good looking race truck, and it was fast too.
It was. Speaking of that sponsorship, I think you and I mentioned it. Brandon Overton in Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series for quite a while has been running the Heartburn hot sauce paint scheme rather than Napa. And we questioned for when about 3 weeks ago when we saw that, we were like, that's weird. Maybe he's just running it because they're big in this area. And then the 100th anniversary came around, and Napa posted, they're doing all of their schemes on all these drivers that they sponsor, and Overton wasn't one of them. He was running the Heartburn hot sauce thing. And so I've got to wonder, is Napa no longer with my boy Brandon Overton?
Yeah, I don't know. There was never an announcement, which usually you don't hear about sponsor announcements in dirt racing. You kind of see it when the paint scheme's revealed or when they show up at the track. So it's kind of a hard thing to say, but I don't know why Napa would drop.
I don't either.
Brandon Overton, but I also don't know enough about the intricacies of that
No,
sponsor
because
relationship. So
I think he had a slow start to the year, but he got a win, and he's been
yeah,
running.
and
He's running in the top 5.
Yeah, been running top 5. He ran top 10. I mean, he's one of the top 15 to 20 dirt late model guys, I would say. I mean, I don't know what really would have led to that, but
No.
Also, more high limit racing. Rico had a controversial. We're talking about Rico's dominance in his first or second of his 3 recent wins. He kind of had a controversial move. I don't know if you got to watch the replay yet of Rico right rearing Kerry
Did
Madsen
see
for
it.
the lead at Lakeside. Kerry Madsen lost the lead to Austin McCarl in the start. Got around him after a couple restarts. Jason Persley again had a violent flip. His luck has been so bad this year. It was a violent flip on a restart. But Rico got up to Kerry Madsen and just absolutely sent it in there, fed him a right rear. Madsen got sideways, got spun. Brad Sweet comes flying in, flips over Madsen's car.
Yeah.
And it just caused a huge wreck, and Kyle Larson was junked from it.
Which
And
also
it just seems
go ahead.
a little out of character for Rico, because Rico's not a dirty driver. I mean, he's a wide open, he's going to make risky moves, but he's not a dirty driver, and just feeding somebody the right rear for the lead just doesn't. That's a little out of character for Rico. So I gotta wonder if that was a honest mistake, or if it was him just being that hungry for a lead that he just wasn't really that worried about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting though. I don't know much about Rico's driving style, so I can't speak much to it yet. But, normally it's not something that you see. Brad Sweet, you said, got collected in that, and he's still finished in top 10 in that race. And in all of the races, he's finished top 10 and top 5 in all races that High Limit has had.
Yeah, Brad Sweet is just on another level in a sprint car right now. Outside of Kyle Larson, I think David Gravel's really the only driver that has anything for him regularly. Yeah. But, he spends his time. Brad Sweet is the defending champion in High Limit. David Gravel's the defending champion in World Outlaws. And it seemed the whole time they were both on the Outlaw schedule that Brad Sweet kind of had the upper hand in that quote-unquote rivalry. But to me, it's not really a rivalry. Before we get in to the FloRacing Night in America week, I just want to point out that USAC did have 2 races in the last 2 weeks. They ran a doubleheader with the World Outlaws de Eldora, where Brady Bacon won. Great long runs, just a normal USAC non-winged race, kind of a little more spread out, but more passing, but also more spread out than a winged sprint car race. The World of Outlaws also had a fun race there. You go to Lincoln. They went to Lincoln Speedway. They've been in Pennsylvania having their little head-to-head that they do with the Pennsylvania posse. And at Lincoln, in the first leg of this, Buddy Kofoid got the win after leading from the pole and just kind of held the whole race and won. But they went to Port Royal, and I want to give a shout out to Anthony Macri. He's one of the Pennsylvania guys, part of the Pennsylvania posse, also kind of a true outlaw in the sprint car world. He got the win over the Outlaws, and I just want to give him a quick shout out to that. As just a move that you don't see a lot. These guys that are kind of an independent driver, independent series, go out and get a win with one of the 2 national 410 series. But now let's get into the big thing that we watched a lot of this week, the FloRacing Night in America. I think, did we watch all 3 of these together, or did we just watch night 1 and 2 together?
We watched, I think we watched night 2 and 3 together.
That sounds right. Because night 1 was at LaSalle, Ryan Gustin on the pole.
Yep.
Drake Troutman. No, yeah, we watched night 1 and night 3.
You're right.
That's what it was.
There
we watched 1 and 3.
Gavin.
Night 1 at LaSalle. Ryan Gustin got on the pole, but Drake Troutman jumped right to the lead. And he led the next 23 laps. And Drake Troutman's one of those guys that he still doesn't have. I don't think he has that national win to his name yet, but he just always seems right up in the front. But it seems like self-inflicted mistakes happen every time. And another one happened to this race where he just got into the wall and faded away from the lead after Bobby Pierce got out front. And
I think the thing that we were going to talk about with the Night in America series is cool is I think we all love when we get to see the Lucas Oil guys and the World of Outlaw guys come together, because that's one thing I'm indifferent about there being 2 top level series, because you break up your amazing field, and I think it's good because you get a lot of newer, younger guys that can jump in and try to get a name for themselves. I think if you combine them, the fields would be, while amazing, it would be hard for newer drivers to kind of jump in.
And also, you get twice as many races for fans to go to around the
exactly.
country.
But so anyway, I love when we get races like this where we can combine them because I love seeing Bobby Pierce go and fight with RTJ, Devin Moran, JD, as well as some other guys be able to fight with them.
Dude, we had an 8-lap showdown between RTJ and Bobby Pierce. Like, how do you beat that in a dirt late model car? You have the best driver in the World Outlaws, the best driver in the Lucas Oil late models. Who RTJ had a slow week really this week.
He did. Well, and Timothy said that he loves getting to see the dirt late models feed the right rears, really get into it.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, Timothy.
Yeah. Well, compared to a sprint car, I mean, if you feed a guy a right rear in a late model, you just get together and it's good hard racing. But in a sprint car, you feed somebody a right rear and you end up with something like when Rico fed a right rear to Madsen at Lakeside, you pile up a bunch of race cars. But in the late models, you throw a slider that isn't completely clear and you get together with the guy and y'all keep going. But, that's just the difference between an open wheel car and a car with a full body on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after that, they went to Spoon River. And after the World Outlaws, after the Outlaws got to win, the Lucas Oil guys got to win on night 2 with Jonathan Davenport. And one move, I mean, there were so many great moves in this race, but one move I want to look at is Jason Fager unlapped himself using the top. This was a cool moment for me. You were watching a bunch of good racing for the lead. Jason Fager, who is a lap down, sees an opportunity, puts the car up on the cushion, and just rolls back around the leaders to get himself back on the lead lap. That was... I'm not going to use it as my badass move of the week, but when I watched it happen, that was my first thought was, this might be my move of the week right here. And how about this on night 2? Hudson O'Neal finished second, ahead of Bobby Pierce, ahead of Devin Moran. RTJ didn't even make the A main on night 2.
That's crazy.
And I was glad to see Hudson up front in a race as big as this.
Yeah, no, it was a sight to see, and something that we wanted. That Hudson, although he's slowly kind of overcome those challenges at the start of the year, I would say he hasn't quite fully gotten there. I think there's still just been. He's struggles.
In a better position than he was.
That's what I would say.
He's went from struggling to make the show every night to being a top 10 car, but he just still is lacking that one extra step to be competing for wins night in and night out. Night 3, this was the other one we all had to watch together, is on the very start of the race, Devin Moran rolled the top to get around Garrett Albertson, take the lead, and just absolutely dominate this race. Talk about another classic finish again. We looked up with
so close.
Not long to go, and you had Devin Moran, RTJ, and Bobby Pierce as your top 3. The cream rose to the top all week in Illinois this week.
Yeah, it was great. That fight with Moran and RTJ, I think RTJ just he needed one more lap. He might need one more set of corners. Like that was really it. But I'm excited, viewers. I know that I will be able to watch a lot more dirt during this summer and really be able to get into more of these storylines. So I know that we quite haven't had the bestest conversations when it comes to dirt, but don't worry. I'm going to be able to dig my head into it this summer. But like I've said, I just love the dirt. It's so much fun.
I'm just proud of you at this point for saying that you love dirt racing.
I do.
I knew you liked it, but I mean, when we started this, I don't know if I can imagine saying, man, I love the dirt racing. It's something I look forward to. It was kind of, you're just like, yeah, dirt's cool. It's cool. I like it. And now it's one of the things that you're looking forward to as much as I am.
Yeah.
Then the Lucas Oil Dirt Series took over from the FloRacing Night in America. I just mentioned that RTJ didn't really do that great this week. I lied. He got a win, just not with the FloRacing Night in America. He got a Lucas Oil win, passing Brandon Shepard in traffic, who Brandon Shepard and Hudson O'Neal both got podiums at Farmers City. 2 drivers that I've been saying all year, they're right there on the cusp of being great. And they got their top They both got their top threes. And then at Fairbury, another race that we watched right before we hopped on this call, and what a race that was.
Seriously. I thought
I
it
mean,
was,
how about that end? How about that end of Jonathan Davenport and Brandon Shepard just dueling it out for
oh
the
my
win?
gosh, Shepard was gaining like nobody's business. He threw the slider and could get off the corner like crazy. Like he didn't throw it up all the way towards the wall. He would throw it towards about the middle, and he could power off. Now, obviously, JD still had the power off the corner and the momentum down the straightaway, but not enough to clear him. And you saw it, though. The move from JD down the back straightaway, that again, when Shepard threw it in, through the slider, JD was able to
slide himself.
Well, he slid himself, and then he, instead of going all the way up towards the wall, he parked it in the middle of the track, and there Shepard was not able to make a move to the bottom, and he couldn't wrap and carry that momentum up towards the high side, and that was the winning move.
I mean, what a smart move from JD there, too. I mean, talk about somebody who's kind of a racing genius to know, think on the fly there on the last lap of a $30,000 to win race, hey, I'm going to hold the middle because this is a car behind him, so he couldn't see him this whole time, but to know where he's getting the momentum because he had been able to hear him get the momentum on the inside, to know if I park it in the middle, he's not going to be able to get this run off the corner to pass me coming to the line. And I think if that was any other driver, even someone experienced like RTJ, Devin Moran, or Bobby Pierce, I don't even know if they would have been able to think on the fly to make that move that Jonathan Davenport made, end up allowing him to hold on to the lead and win that race.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. But yeah.
But that kind of brings me to the question, out of all these 5 races all week long, who do you think had the upper hand? The Outlaws or the Lucas Oil guys?
I think at the end of the day, it was Lucas Oil guys.
I mean, they had 3 wins to 2. When you go look at the FloRacing Night in America, the World Outlaws have the number 1 and 2 in the points, but it's even for the entire top 10, 5-5, and the Lucas Oil guys have 1 more win on the week.
Yeah,
and
I think the Lucas Oil drivers were a little bit more loud. I think they were making a lot more moves. I think they were, and not saying that that's better. Obviously all of our drivers in World of Outlaws still did great, but they were a little bit more quieter.
Bobby Pierce, because he's Bobby Pierce.
It's Bobby. Yeah, I was gonna say it's Bobby Pierce. And Bobby Pierce is the loudest of the World of Outlaw guys, but that's saying a lot in terms of his moves.
Brian
on track.
Shirley impressed me this week.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always been a good driver to me, but I've never put him in the category with Bobby Pierce and with RTJ and Jonathan Davenport. But I mean, this week it seemed like he was up front every single race. I mean, I don't know if he finished worse than 6th or 7th all week.
Yeah, which is impressive. So, but yeah, that's my take. I think the Lucas Oil guys had the edge.
I have to agree, and I think kind of the X factors there were Brandon Shepard and Hudson O'Neal, which are the 2 guys that kind of stepped up there, especially recently.
Yeah. So.
And then
I'm ready to get
some
more.
I kind of am too.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Who's your
go.
bone out of the way?
I don't got one.
I have mine.
I want to hear yours.
It is the same as the rest of the racing world. If you open Twitter during the Texas NASCAR weekend, it's funny. I'm actually not going to read my note that I have. It's not very nice. Chris Wright was getting lapped by Justin Allgaier, who was the leader during a pit cycle at this time, and Chris Wright's on the bottom, and he sees Allgaier coming up top. And I don't know if it was a miscommunication between the spotter and Chris Wright, but Chris Wright goes from the bottom to the middle, and Allgaier cuts back down to the bottom, and then Chris Wright halfway blocks, halfway leaves like half of the bottom lane open. So Allgaier goes up the track to lap him on the outside, and as he's coming up the track, Chris Wright pulls it back off of the bottom and takes out the leader, Justin Allgaier, who was absolutely dominating the Xfinity race. And I don't know if the bonehead is Chris or if it's his spotter or.
Yeah. Well, and it's just it sucks.
And even if it
but-
was his spotter, I mean, even if it was him or it was a spotter, as you know from what happened at Daytona, Chris Wright would probably blame his spotter anyway.
Yeah. Well,
if you remember that,
I do.
that interview.
The hard thing is, this has happened a good bit for Chris Wright, and this has
been a consistent issue.
I know that he has been getting a lot of smack, and I had my thoughts about it when I first saw it, but I liked what Dale Jr. said in that there have to be. You can't have a field, and I think it's better when a field is not full and stacked of absolutely top tier drivers. I think it's important to have drivers that are at some development, but I think as well, Dale Jr. also brought up a great point, and I want to know what y'all think about this. Apparently, NASCAR is not like hard and strict in terms of their minimum speed rules. I figured this out. The minimum
have you watched
speed,
ARCA race
the
recently?
minimum speed to get back into the race, where at Texas, where down the straightaway you're going 150, and in the corner you're going 110, 115, 125. The minimum speed is 84 miles an hour. 84 miles an hour. And
I feel like you go faster at Texas, though. I feel like it's 170.
I feel like 180,
well, and
185.
again, I'm being conservative in that approach, but I'm saying 84 miles
for
an
a
hour.
back of the pack car, a back of the pack car in Xfinity is probably going 170 to 175 on the straightaway, 140, 145 in the corners.
So I'm saying
if
within
you're
the
a car like Chris Wright.
Right. So I'm saying, like, I think NASCAR has got to be more strict on that. Because I think
85 miles per hour that's a big closing speed between, even the back of the that's borderline dangerous. But
I mean, if you're driving on the interstate at 85 miles an hour, which is the highest speed limit I can think of, and there's a car parked on the side of the road, that's the closing rate we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really even
safe.
a little more than that.
Yeah, it's not safe.
Not safe at all.
Well, and that's why, like, Dale Jr. made a good point about questioning that and why it is that way, why it's not more strict.
It's like that scene from Talladega Nights. What was that? That's the other cars. How fast am I going? 26 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I think it is important to have drivers that you obviously have a level of talent within a series. It's always going to be that way, and I think it's that way for a reason in terms of, A, that's just kind of how it works, but B, I think that it has to be that way. And because again, obviously you want the closest racing that you can get. You want tight battles, you want tons of passes, you want action. But that comes with drivers being at slightly different skill levels. And if you're going to go from the top, you got to drop down. And the gap varies. And so you're going to drop back to the 35th car, and the gap between him and the first one, which I would say Allgaier is absolutely in the top 3. The drop back to the back is quite significant.
Huge.
So
the Xfinity Series advertises themselves as probably, in all the racing in America, probably the 50th to 100th best drivers in the country is what I would say.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's probably somewhere from the top guys are probably around number 50 in the country. But you're looking at guys like Chris Wright are probably pressed to crack the top 400 or 500 drivers in the country. Yeah. And that's not an offense to Chris Wright. That's just how it works with every different discipline of racing, every different short track tour. I mean, we're looking at people that have never had a NASCAR start that I would say are close to that top 100 cusp, honestly.
Had to take a second break there. I had to use the restroom. So let's see. We covered now Xfinity because that, we
haven't talked about that with the bonehead move.
Yes,
we're on a tangent thought there.
I know. Well, so I had a badass move, and mine was Connor Hall at Ace avoiding the pit wall. Viewers, if you didn't see, I think it was what's his name? It's a Brandon something in the 2 car. I don't remember what his last name is, but he was coming up. It was almost 3 wide. It was 3 wide for a second on the entry to 3. Connor Hall backs out. Brandon swings in on the inside, and I don't remember. Oh, it was the 28 car who was on the outside. I don't remember who drives that either.
That's Landon S. Huffman.
Thank you. I should know these names. Anyway,
there's Landon Huffman, not to be confused with Landon Huffman.
Right. And so the 2 car comes in, gets loose on entry as he crosses over the apron, spins right in front of Hall. Hall has to cut hard left, but then as he's cutting hard left, the pit wall is approaching. The tires are right there, so he has to avoid the car but avoid the pit wall, and so he climbs the right front and right rear up onto the top of the 2 car. That turns his car to the right, and he avoids a pit wall by less than 6 inches. Go check out the clip. It's absolutely insane, and I have no idea how he did it.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it looked like something out of a cartoon.
Yeah.
But that was mine.
But,
Timothy, did you have one?
Yeah. I was gonna go with Rico at Kokomo. Yeah. I mean, that pass for the lead, coming to the checkered, it was really neat to watch. And I mean, Gavin and I, not 30 seconds earlier, we were talking about, it's been a good race, but it's not really that interesting to watch. And the next thing we know,
race.
Yeah, it's not a very eventful race. But the next thing we know, we just see Rico send it to the outside and into 3, and drive around Peck, coming to the checkered.
Yeah. I think
he led the last 6 inches of the race.
Yeah, he didn't lead very much of the race.
Well, it was insane.
I don't know to be more impressed with him or to feel bad for Justin Pegg for having a flawless race and still not winning.
Yeah.
It's tough. But so we kind of started to get into text a little bit. Let's get in the cup race for just a second. Obviously, me and Gavin were elated. I was so happy. Joey starts 27th, and they worked on that car. He worked himself up into the top 5. And then near the end, there was a lot going on around him. Like, he was avoiding a ton. There were wrecks aplenty. There was so much in overtime. And then, McDowell's on a bold 2-tire strategy. He's out front. And then Joey's able to
Kyle Larson, who was on fresher tires.
Look, if Joey had not been up there,
or fresher tires.
If Joey or Blaney had not been up there, I'd have wanted McDowell to win because I like McDowell. I think a lot of people have a soft spot for McDowell.
He's just a likable guy.
Yeah, he's a good old boy.
He is.
That's
exactly.
Best way to put it.
But Blaney,
him and all 77 of his children.
Seriously. But Blaney makes a mistake, doesn't choose the front row. And that was the ultimate mistake why Blaney didn't win. Joey gets up there. He's able to work his way around McDowell. And then from there, McDowell's falling. He's on 2 tires.
How about McDowell's blocking Joey all the way down to the white line entering turn 3, though?
That was insane.
I mean, I thought he was going to wreck both of them because
I did too. I was worried.
I knew McDowell hasn't won a race in almost 2 years, and then Joey, he's going to get back on the track. Well, if I know this about Joey, he's going to make turn 3. He's not going to be on the apron entering turn 3. So it was kind of one of those, who was going to flinch first? And luckily Joey got around him just enough to work him back up the track and make the corner, but man, that was just an insane series of events late for the race because they were coming to 1 to go when McDowell ended up wrecking.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really good race. There was so much passing throughout the field. Obviously, I'm a little biased because Joey won, but when I even take that out of it, there was a lot of passing through the field. I thought there were a few too many incidents near the end. I thought a few too many drivers being a little dumb, but it's near the end of the race. You got to go for it. So it's going to happen. But
I'd rather wreck for the win is not wreck and think of what could have been.
And I think a lot of people question this repave. It's been bad for a couple of years, but man, did it put on a race this year. Y'all know
it put on a really good show.
Y'all know that, at least especially in Hypershift, I was loving Texas up until I got in the grass like Gio Ruggiero. But
what a hit. That was
that was insane.
And
so
another
glad
thing,
that he was
while
okay.
we're talking about the end of these races, end of the truck race remember back at Talladega with the Jeb Burton and Austin Hill who won the race.
Yeah.
We had another interesting thing like that. Rajah had the lead at the time of the caution but they went back to the previous timing
Okay,
line
and here's
because
the
it's a restart instead of the end of the race.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm watching the Cup race this past week from Kansas, and it was between Joey and Larson on who's the leader, and they pull up this generated image of where the cars are on track in terms of with the last scoring loop. And I'm like, why can't they pull that up for viewers and themselves in terms of deciding a race? Where was that at Talladega with the Xfinity cars? Like, where was that they have the transponders. They have their exact GPS location. Where was that? Why did they determine the race finish off of a crappy picture?
And they have it for the lower series because you can watch the GPS location of the cars on the NASCAR app for trucks and Xfinity races.
So that's my thing. I remember when that all happened with everything at Dega, and I was like, why can't they? They do the side by sides of lap in between lap and qualifying. They do it and stuff like this to determine who was at the last scoring loop for a restart. Why couldn't they have done that for Jeb Burton and all those drivers and Austin Hill in them? That bewildered me.
And then even for the truck race, which I know this is a rule, it goes to the timing line for cautions and for restarts. But they even in the truck series, you can watch the geolocations on the NASCAR app, and they were literally showing it during the qualifying broadcast 3 hours earlier in the day.
Yeah.
At the same track, on the same network, the same. It's so frustrating for me, the inconsistencies in rules between restarts and the end of the races when it comes down to a caution.
Yeah.
But, congratulations to Corey Heim for winning that truck race at Texas, I guess.
Yeah.
And
well, hey, I also thought Ruggiero was faster, but he made that mistake through the grass. But he was running second, and he was. I think he was faster than Heim, but I think he's also, again, one that's going to get a win.
He'll get his time. It's coming, and you can tell by the results he's putting together.
So, nothing crazy from Kansas. I didn't get to watch much. Obviously, Brandon Queen wins in ARCA. Awesome. Trucks.
How about the end of the truck race?
This is what wild. Lane Riggs was a little bit faster. Lane Riggs was faster.
Ran down Hocevar.
But here's the thing. Obviously goes into 2, gets loose on exit of 2, gets into Hocevar. Somehow they both managed to save it, which was really impressive on both of them.
Entering 1, Riggs kind of gave him a bump and run, but they both got into the wall.
But here's the thing.
Hocevar turns into, I don't even know what, something out of a movie.
Hocevar
holds his big old number 1 middle finger out the window from turn 2 all the way to the start-finish line. Yeah. Wins the race. All I have to say is hell yeah, brother, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of it. You don't have to be, but I'm a fan of it. I thought it was great.
I'm not mad about it, but I'm not like, oh yeah, that was the greatest thing ever. I'm like, well,
I
just
think it's funny.
I know, and I'm not. I think it's funny too. But it was
Riggs
interesting.
being salty about it.
Bro was salty.
I thought that was funnier than the.
But I was like, Riggs, you almost wrecked him.
You almost wrecked both of you.
Right, and so it was like. But I also got to wonder why Riggs didn't try to make his move in 3 and 4 when he was just a little bit closer.
When you have that much momentum, you can't lift, though, especially in a truck with the way the momentum racing is. I think he just didn't want to give up the momentum he had built up, because when you have the opportunity with 1 to go, is like I said earlier, if you don't take that, there's not a guarantee that you're going to have the momentum into 3.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if Lane Riggs has a truck win yet. But
he got 2 last year, didn't he?
I think he got 3 last year. He had 2 in a row. I think he has 3.
Okay. Well,
he has 3.
But still, I think you should have more.
Yeah, you're coming. You just take the white flag, and you have a shot at the win. It's kind of hard to back off. It's kind of hard at that point. But you also can't be mad about it after you run into the guy and the guy flicks you off for, half a lap. So
yeah.
But yeah, I would be pretty butthurt if I ran over a guy and then watched him drive away from me with a middle finger hanging out of his window. So
yeah.
Gosh. It's crazy.
Yeah, Scott, is that how you felt after you got
Oh,
DQ'd from our
oh,
hypershift race? And
oh. I want to go back and
they
watch my.
after you got DQ'd for something you couldn't help, and then you got
Yeah.
chat muted when you were mad. Is that what you felt like?
Yeah, honestly, I think I was Hocevar in that scenario. Middle finger out the window of my imaginary cup car. But the thing
Had the
is,
middle finger out the side of the sim rig.
seriously, I gotta go back and watch my stream from that day and see how pissed I was. I tried to keep it under control, but I was upset.
When you find it, send it to me because I want to see this.
It's on my Twitch. Go look at
Okay,
it.
I'm gonna have to find this, and I'm gonna have to put it on I'm gonna have to put it on our Instagram.
No, let's not. I crashed out. I crashed out a little bit. That was like my first like legitimate crash out in our league. But last thing that I wanted to talk about that we want to talk about, Gavin, and you know a little bit more about it from me, was Indy 500. When we record episode 10, which, hey, let's go. In 2 weeks, we're going to record our 10th episode. Let's freaking go.
I mean,
hype about that. But we're going to have the Indy 500. I know.
The Indy 500, the Coke 600, the greatest day on the racing calendar.
Dude,
we're going to have to talk about next week.
I love it. And
next week's show might be 4 hours long.
Hey, so sad that this is the last year.
Busy.
So sad this is the last year of the greatest day in motorsport.
It's still going to be the best day on the calendar.
It's still going to be great, but it. While I think Monaco is a little less in terms of the buildup of the day, it's still Monaco.
It's cool to wake up to Monaco.
Exactly. And
I hate that we're going to have
to wake up and wait. You could wake up and turn on Monaco, and the minute it's done, Indy starts getting going. The minute the Indy is done, NASCAR in full swing. And so I just hate you're going to wake up and be like, oh, well.
But here's the other thing to that. How many times have you actually gotten up and watched the entire Monaco GP?
For every year I've been a racing fan.
I think I've only watched
liked
it
F1.
Once.
So the past 2 years that I've been an F1 fan, I have.
Okay, I usually get up and I turn it on as I'm getting ready for church, and I'll see the very end of the race, and I'll see like the post-race interviews. Monaco, that's really all you need to see right now.
I'm always at the beach, and so I've always woken up
that's
like
fun.
7:30 in the morning, gotten up for it. I don't go to the beach that day.
Well, you're going to be on your way back from South Boston.
Yeah. So, and it depends. And I might be at the Coke 600 with you. So.
We hope.
Speaking of which, if we're there together, are we going to go sit somewhere to watch the 500?
The Indy 500? So
yeah,
I will be.
I'm
not sure what time I don't know what time the track opens that day. So my plans is I'm going to be at the track as soon as it opens because I'm going to be working for Victory Junction. Like I was telling you, we have some content we're going to be recording all week. So I'll be with them. I'll be all around the infield. But I will be like, you're welcome to tag along with us if you get to come. So
yeah,
I'll probably be watching the Indy 5. I'll be watching the Indy 500 probably on my phone on the go, back and forth from different places.
Hey, I'll just hop on.
I'll
hop on the back.
I will be watching. Yeah, exactly. Just hop on the back of my chair, and you can hold my phone and watch the Indy 500 while I drive.
Yeah, it's gonna be in tow.
I'll get you a little red wagon. You can.
Where's
set
my
in
little
and I'll pull you
DRS
around.
flap?
Yeah.
Wait, I need. Wait. Open air. Oh, I got more air.
Speaking of the Indy 500,
let's make some
over
picks.
here on my screen. Yeah, we have some betting odds here. If we want to look at our pick, look at for reference for your picks.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you guys the first two picks. I think I'm going to go with my third pick. Do you want to make a kind of a gentleman's rule where we don't pick the same driver?
Yes.
Okay, well.
Who's it? Tim, you go first.
I think I'm going to have to go with Colton Herta.
Okay.
I mean, he's kind of an underdog, but, I don't...
He's from Indiana, isn't he?
I'm not exactly sure about that, but
no,
I don't really keep up with IndyCar at all. But when I do watch an IndyCar race, I like to watch Colton Herta. So I think I'm gonna have to go with him just because of that.
Yeah, I want to go. Part of me, I'm very torn because part of me wanted to pick O'Ward or Newgarden, but I think Pato just has some sort of Indy curse on him, whatever it may be. He's just been so close that I still whatever it may be, I don't think it's because of driver talent. I just don't think he's got it for this year. Whatever, I don't even think it's going to be his fault. I think it's just going to be the way it happens. But honestly, there's only been 3 other drivers ever to win one other driver, I think, to win 3 Indy 500s in a row. And so I think that's going to be really tough for Newgarden. But if I'm going to pick, I'm going to go with Newgarden.
Anybody can do it.
I'm going to go with Newgarden.
I'm sitting here looking, and Alex Palou, he's a good oval driver, not the best. Pato seems cursed for the Indy 500. So I'm sitting here looking, and I have it narrowed down to 2 guys. And, I think I'm going to stay in the Team Penske organization. I'm saying Penske Perfect continues their streak at the Indy 500. I'm going to go with Scott McLaughlin.
That's a good
getting
pick.
it done at the Indy 500.
That's a good pick. I think, what is it? He qualified on pole last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a good pick. Part of me also wanted to pick Larson, but I think even Larson is amazing. He's so good, and I think he has a chance. But
I think Larson could get in that top 7 or 8, but when you start looking at getting up there with Pato, getting up there with Alex Palou, Newgarden,
it's going to be tough.
Herta,
of guys that run that
all
car.
All 3 Penske cars. And then you've got to look at guys like Elio Castroneves. I know he's going to be in kind of a middle-of-the-pack team, but, it's Elio Castroneves, and it's the Indy 500. He's going to be a factor at the end of the race.
Right.
And I think Larson can win, but he's going to need some luck. He's going to need some strategy.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to be kind of a wacky race for Larson to win.
Yeah.
But I do think he's going to finish in that 5th to 10th range.
Hey, I would love to see that, though. Like, last year when he was running 6th, I was over the moon. But
I'm the same way, but you got to look at when Kurt Busch ran the Indy 500 however many years ago. I think he ran around the top 10 the whole race. Yeah. But it is so...
It's
when
when
you get into that top 4 or 5 drivers in the Indy field, it is...
Driver talent can only do so much. You're battling against these guys who are the best of the best in this field, and they run this car all the time. Larson, while he's going to have good testing, he doesn't drive it all the time, and it drives differently, way differently than the NASCAR Cup Series car does.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say something maybe controversial. And I think even as far as raw talent in any car, I think Alex Palou is still the best. I think Alex Palou is the best driver in the world at this moment.
Really?
He's 4 for 5 in IndyCar this year. He is just on another level, and I don't think anybody in F1 is as dominant as him. Kyle Larson is doing great.
Oscar Piastri is killing it right now, but not as dominant. Yes.
But when you look at, given their circumstances and what their job is, Alex Palou is the best. Okay, maybe not best. He is the best person at his job in all of sports right now.
I think I would agree with that.
With that statement, in all of sports, motorsports, stick and ball sports, being good at your job, Alex Palou is number 1 in the world right now.
Yeah. No, I'd have to agree. Tim?
Yeah, you can't really argue with that. If you're 4 for 5 in a professional series, it's kind of hard not to.
Hey, could we see his 4th championship?
Probably. He would have to throw it away at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was caught up between Palou or Colton Herta in my prediction there, but I tend to like the underdog.
That's crazy.
More.
That's crazy that none of the 3 of us picked Palou, and we're talking about his absolute dominance right now.
We're talking about how he's probably the best driver in the world.
This could be a clip. This could be a clip for us to look back at, and we're gonna say Palou's gonna go out and win, and we all 3 didn't pick him and said, "Oh yeah, he's the best in the world."
Remember when we said Jimmy Johnson wasn't gonna make the Daytona 500,
bro? Finishes top 5.
Why did we say that?
No, you said that.
Why did I?
Yeah, I don't think I was here for that.
Why did you let me say that?
Dude, you say whatever you want. You're on your own.
That's my biggest problem is I say whatever I want.
I but hey, that's what we're here for.
But yeah, we'll go with I'm taking McLaughlin. Timothy, you're taking Herta, and Scott, you said you're taking
Newgarden.
Pato? Newgarden.
Yeah, Pato's got too much against him right now in the 500.
Bro,
I love that Fox ad.
cursed.
I love that Fox ad that it's like he's got everything. He's gotten everything but the milk, and I think it's really funny. Those lead-ups were good, but I think that about rounds it out for me. You, Gavin?
I mean, I'm just super excited for these next 2 weeks for me. I'm going to be at North Wilkesboro.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to be at the Coke 600.
It's going to be good.
Next Thursday, as long as everything goes according to plan, I will be interviewing Jade Avedizian on my personal YouTube channel. So I'll get that. I'll share that on the
Hey, you got to
B-Main.
talk to her about getting over here.
Yes. Assuming that, your normal 19-year-old girl is going to want to get on a Discord call with us three jabronis. We can hope for that, but
Broski,
But,
jabronis. Hey, am I the broski? Is
Jabronis.
Gavin the jabroni? We got to figure out
What is Tim?
what
Yeah,
Tim
I'm
is.
the jabroni.
All right, we're figuring this out. That's a running joke. What was it? Tim, tell that story before we round
about
out.
Emily and the broski.
Yeah.
So even right before the podcast started, Emily made a joke about it because I sent her a Snapchat of mine and Scott's faces right next to each other since I was working with getting the webcam set up. But yeah, we were at the Rattler and Emily and Scott were talking. I don't know where I was. I was probably off signing autographs like the famous race car driver that I am. But
Lightning McQueen knows my name, guys.
yeah. But yeah, after the race, Emily and I were riding back to Panama City, and she was like, I forget exactly what the conversation y'all were having, but Emily had said something along the lines of, when actually I forget it entirely.
I think we're I don't know what we were talking about, but I called you my broski.
Yeah, you said that I'm your broski, and Emily she cringed at that, and then it has been a running joke ever since.
I love
broski.
It's so
Well,
funny.
we got to figure out what you are. If I'm the jabroni and Scott's the broski,
We'll come up with it. It'll happen.
he's just the Timmy.
He's just Tim.
Just Timmy.
Just good old Tim.
I'm fine with that.
But
Hey.
yeah, so we'll be back with plenty to talk about. Just a warning: next episode might go 4 or 5 hours with as busy as we're going to be.
Okay, it's not
and
going
as
to go
much
that
as we
long.
have to talk about.
It might be
I
the
hope
first
it's
episode to
not.
go over too.
It might be, but this episode was great. Looking forward to next week. Looking forward to getting to talk to you both about the Indy 500, about the Coke 600. Hopefully, me and Sky could finally see each other in person.
I know.
And Timothy, I'm sorry you're not joining us.
Yeah, I hope that.
Do you have any racing going on this next 2 weekends?
Yes, Friday night we'll be at Pensacola with the Outlaw again. So,
let's go. Can he go
we were-
3 for 3?
For 3.
Yeah, well, technically 4 for 4
Yeah, I
if you
guess.
count the Mobile race.
Y'all
Yeah,
ready
we were
3 for
supposed
3?
Yeah, we were supposed to race this past Friday night at Pensacola, but we got rained out. So
If you go 4 for 4, go to Wendy's and get you a 4 for 4.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do. But yeah, hopefully everything will go to plan this Friday night, and if you have the time, tune in. I believe it'll be on Racing America. So
Hey, and
or
viewers,
if you're within driving distance,
Yep.
come out to the race.
hey, and viewers, we'll be posting updates on all that stuff on all of our socials. We're on X, Instagram, TikTok. It's all just
YouTube.
It's all what is it? _B_main. And you can find us all, or it's _B_main. All that jazz. We're all
And
there.
if you can
YouTube.
find one of them, all the other ones are
Hey,
linked in the
dude,
bio.
It was great because my sister, she searched up our TikTok the other day by just typing in like the B main with a space or no spaces, no nothing, and it was the only one to come up.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
we're
well,
on
I can tell you my mom was sitting on the couch the other day and was just scrolling through TikTok and found just on her For You page, she found
Nice.
a video.
Let's
So,
freaking go.
It's getting out there, and hopefully
if
it'll
you-
reach the right audience.
If you want to sponsor us, it's the B Main Podcast 2024 gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
We would love some money to get some more things going. We'd love a producer so that you're not just watching these 3 steady shots all the same time. But hey, we want to get some stuff rolling. We want to keep progressing. So anyway, reach out to us. Hope y'all all enjoyed this episode. You know we love doing this every other week, and it's so awesome for us. We're coming into the summer for me and Timothy, and so we'll be able to watch more races. It's going to be awesome. Tune in, keep going. But that's going to be all from us here at the B-Main, and we're going to sign off from episode number 9.